Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have Kristen here, who is officially completed the spiral, which is so exciting. And so Kristen got started with the spiral back in December and has moved through the spiral now. And she's a financial coach. She's absolutely amazing. And I'm super excited. She's going to share a little bit about her journey of going through the spiral, what it was that really pulled her to moving through this modality and being guided through it, what her process was throughout, and then the biggest shifts that she's had since. And you just completed it, and the integration of the spiral actually continues up to 6 months afterwards. So you're still going to see lots of amazing shifts kind of coming up. So I will check in with you again later down the road, and we may do another one of these to really allow people to see your transformation and your process through this. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here and being open to sharing.
Thank you. I'm so excited to share my experience. It's been fantastic.
Yay. I'm so glad. And so would you be open to sharing a little bit about what was it that initially, I guess maybe share a little bit about how we met and like what that process was like of like, what was it that made you want to move through it?
Yeah. So we actually met through friends at a cottage, and I honestly, I always feel that we were meant to be there at the same time so we can connect. And it's so empowering to see how the universe really works in mysterious ways.
I know.
And so we connected in terms of around business a little bit, but I really loved, Laura, I loved how you approached me about the spiral. And you were just, you're like, oh, if you want a little more, let me know, kind of idea. And I was just like curious about what you were doing, especially through seeing your social media and things like that, and just some of the conversations that we've had. And so, yeah, it's just like, I just feel it's so aligned with, where I was at the time and where I'm going. And so really at the time, I was in like a fairly rough spot, especially. So we met kind of in the summer, and then in the fall, which like typically I struggle a little bit in the fall, if I'm being honest. And so I was really like kind of questioning where I was and where I was meant to be. And so I knew that there was work to do with energy and clearing and things like that. But kind of when I've had experience in the past, it didn't really sit with me well. It didn't really align. And so I knew that there had to be a better way. And so when I learned about the spiral and how everything is synced up and how you go through, lower levels into higher levels, and like it just makes sense, right? It's not like you're just clearing random things. Like there's a systematic order. And so that really drew me to the program. And I think in one, like where I was in my life made sense, but also just like understanding the program, it really seemed to make sense to me. And so I knew that I had blocks and patterns, but I didn't really know what those were that were holding me back. But I knew, like, just even with what I was trying to do in my life, I'm like, I know I'm stuck, but I can't figure it out. So yeah, that's really what drove me to, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do this and move forward with the spiral. And I've learned a ton about myself. It's crazy.
It's been such an amazing journey, like guiding me through this. And so would you be open to sharing a little bit more about like when you mentioned about those blocks, like what was it, like the actual physical blocks that you were experiencing, like what area of your life was it and how did they show up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So really a few different ways. One is in business. So you mentioned I'm a financial coach. And so I felt like I just couldn't get to the next level. I kind of had a goal and I couldn't figure out how to get there, and even the path that I wanted to take to get there. And so that really helped. It helped me kind of like figure out what was holding me back. It's like that fear, or even just like the unknown almost, right? It was like holding me back. And I knew that it was something inside of me. It wasn't, what I do or the people I'm working with or the products that I work with. It was something within me that was holding me back. But I wasn't really sure exactly, I guess, what that was. And so I'm like, I know that I'm holding myself back, but I don't even know how I'm holding myself back. I don't know how to fix it because I don't know the problem is kind of what it was. And even like in terms of like relationships is I was, have sometimes high expectations and things like that. And even that was like holding me back. And it was something that I was very aware of, that I knew that I had like high expectations, but I didn't know how to adjust or how to change. And so the spiral has really helped me with that as well. Is sometimes like even when I knew what the blocks were in my life, I still didn't know how to fix them. Like, great, they're there, but what do I even do? So yeah.
Thank you for explaining a little bit more on that. And yeah, it's interesting because sometimes we will have those blocks where like I know that I'm being blocked in business and relationships, and they're still in my unconscious mind, so I don't even know what they actually are yet. And then sometimes we have them where we're like, okay, this is the patterns behavior, I'm seeing it, but I don't know how to get through it. So the spiral is great because it pulls all from the unconscious into the scene, but then clears it. So then you can then create the new behavioral pattern moving forward, which is just so great. And I know that I am also a high achiever, which is why I attract high achievers, usually when it comes to work and relationships. Go figure, right? And when we're very hard on ourselves in our physical world, really what the thing that we need to change is how hard we're being on ourselves, right? Because that's where the emotional component comes in, where we need to shift and pivot the way that we're talking to ourselves, the way that the emotions are that we're having, and the inner working, so that it can then reflect and project back out onto the world. And a lot of time we'll stay in the outside world trying to be like, okay, well, I need to fix something with my business, or I need to fix something with the people that I'm with in my relationships, or I need to fix these things. In reality, it's like, no, we need to then go inward to shift that. And then once we then project back out with that new perception back onto the world, we see the world through a completely different lens. So moving through the spiral, what was it like for you? Like, a lot of people are like, well, what does it even look like? What are the sessions like? Like, what are you doing? Like, just what is your like a description of what our sessions actually were like?
Yeah. Oh, just fantastic. So when you're going through the session, typically in the beginning, I would open up with kind of what's been on my mind, what was my week like, the positive and the negative, and kind of go through some things that were kind of like immediately on my mind. And then what we would do is we'd drop in, do a quick meditation so I can focus. So even, if I have these other things going on, I can be present in the moment, which can be really challenging. So that really helped me. And even just it helped me with my practice of meditation, which is really amazing, because that's something I know I need to meditate. You don't put this time aside. So doing it regularly really made a difference. And then when we're going through each of the different levels, we would go through 3 different emotions, typically for each session, and really focus on what is holding you back from those things, or where are you stuck. So basically, Laura would focus on doing the muscle testing to figure out what emotion do you need to clear to be able to fully clear that emotion. Say it's like shame or guilt, right? And so that was really interesting, because for each of those, you would see the pattern that you have surrounding that emotion. And this was something that it's shocking how bang on this is, just going through the muscle testing, finding out what are the emotions. So it's the 3 emotions at 3 different ages that are holding you back. And it really allowed you to deep dive into yourself to figure out, where is this coming from? Because we all have stuff, whether it's from when we were 2 years old or 15 years old, that are holding us back, but it's the same patterns that we relive over and over again. And so even just being able to dive back into some things that I hadn't even thought about in years and years, and knowing that these are different patterns that I've been living over and over again, it just really, one, made it okay with, like, felt okay with myself, knowing that it's okay. You're doing the best with the information that you had at the time, and you're working on changing it. And so clearing those emotions and those patterns, it brings up a lot, but it also makes you feel so good knowing that these are things you're clearing out, right? You're clearing out that system, and then you work all the way through, from, like I said, like the lower levels to the higher levels. And then there's calls afterwards, just some manifestation clears, or, you know, these other clearings to make sure that you can be fully integrated. And one thing that I really liked is Laura would really help me, or you would really help me, you know, talk about like what are things that I can integrate to help with that specific session. And that really helped me too, because it kind of gave me like homework between the sessions, and even like simple things of like what kind of foods to eat, or like what kind of yoga poses, like things like that that were very simple to integrate, but I knew that it was helping me really integrate those different things so I can become unstuck or like really clear those different patterns.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for explaining that. You did so well at explaining it. Amazing. Yeah. And it's so cool because those behavioral patterns, like you said, they install a lot of the time from when we were really young. And then we relive in these loops and loops and loops and loops. And we just keep living in them in our subconscious mind. And that's how we create a reality. So when we can start shifting them and breaking those patterns, then when we're doing the integration and you're now coming from a conscious space of creating, right? You're creating your life from that conscious space. Whereas when these patterns anchor in from, a lot of them are from 0 to 7, we don't have our conscious mind yet there to be able to actually like say, yes, I want this behavioral pattern because it's going to move me toward my vision of where I'm wanting to go. We simply pick them up and like a sponge just from our parents or the environment that we're in.
Yeah.
So then we're living on these things. And that's why a lot of the time, unless we're, and we will kind of go through these reprogramming stuff ourselves, and we will shift with our goals and our vision of what we want in life. But a lot of the time when we don't do this amazing work like this, where we're doing the subconscious reprogramming, then we keep hitting those walls. And then eventually when we keep hitting that same wall, we start thinking and creating beliefs that, oh my gosh, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough to do this. And then once it kind of gets to that point, a lot of the time we will start settling for less than what we know that our soul is actually capable of in this lifetime. So thank you so much for sharing that, Kristen. And then and with the integration as well, which is huge, because once we clear those patterns of the integration, a lot of it is just normal lifestyle stuff. So getting you into your meditations all the time, and getting more into the lifestyle stuff so that you can start building that solid base. Because in business, the thing was, you knew what to do. It was just the energetic block that was preventing you from doing it. And once we clear that, then you can now come from this space of like creation, of like, what is the way that feels good to me to build my business, instead of going off of these old programs of, oh, what did that person do? Right. So is there anything else you'd like to share on that before we kind of move on?
It's really interesting that you say that, because I feel like I'm reworking my business and I'm trying to figure out a new way of doing my business that really does sit well with me. So like before I felt so stuck, but now I know that I'm in the right place. It's just the way that I was proceeding wasn't the right way, kind of like it's just a different path, right, to get the same to get to the same place. So it's really interesting, because it's like just discovering that it's okay to do things in a different way that, you know, is different than the habits that you had before. And even like just like the affirmations, I think, was another big one in terms of integration that really makes a huge difference. And so one thing that I did is I put sticky notes of my affirmations all around my house. Which was pretty good until we had people over. My partner was like,
he's like, damn it, Kristen, get rid of all these sticky notes. People are gonna think
like colorful, everywhere. So I still have like some really important ones that are up in more of my spaces around the house. But just things like that is like, I feel when I am kind of sitting in a negative emotion, if I like come across, they're on like vibrant sticky notes, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I love you, Kristen. Like things like
Yeah.
that are just so empowering to hear. And I feel like they almost need to be out there for you to be reminded of that. And like those
Yeah.
affirmations can be really important. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's the smallest little things, right? It's that state change, right? When our minds, when we're in that subconscious loop, it's creating that emotional pattern. So even something as simple as a sticky note can give you that brief shift in your thought process, which then will reshift the emotional pattern that's coming with it, which can completely change the trajectory of your day, of where you're going. And then your body then it starts becoming normal that process starts kind of happening.
Yeah.
There was something else that you shared as well that I wanted to kind of add on to, but I don't remember what it was.
I feel
That's
that.
okay. It wasn't meant to come through on this one. That's okay. Amazing. Okay. So what have been like the biggest shifts that you have noticed while moving through the spiral in your like everyday life?
Yeah, in everyday life, I'd say the biggest one is through relationships and just how um, really how I observe other people. I almost like more understanding of people's behaviors because I realized all the stuff that was going on with myself. And so now it's almost like I'm just more open-minded around it,
Yeah.
to really understand that. And so when I am having different conversations, I'm really trying to be a little bit more patient. This is something we really focused on is patient presence.
Yeah.
And so that made a huge difference. Another big one is within terms of my business goals is I realized that the goal that I thought that I had set out for myself wasn't really my goal. It was a goal that somebody else had set out for me, which I was like, yeah, this is great. Let's go for it. Let's do it. Right. And then I realized that I want something kind of in that capacity, but not that specifically. And so just being able to speak up for myself and knowing that that's okay. I think that's another big one is like just setting boundaries and knowing that it's okay to have direct conversations, but just in, a polite way, right? And
Yeah.
so these are some things that have really like changed the way that I am, and even just being more open and authentic with people and opening up. And I feel with that, I've been able to connect with different people that maybe I wouldn't have been able to before, or maybe that conversation wouldn't have gone in that same direction. And so I guess just more vulnerable, right? When you can be more vulnerable with somebody else, they can be more vulnerable for you. I think another big one that just in my day to day is trying to be a lot more patient with myself. And, I can be very hard on myself or have self doubts. And I feel a lot of that is cleared up with the spiral and just knowing that I have everything that I need within inside of me, and I don't need that from other places. And so when I am feeling like I need that love or attention or whatever that is, I can come back to myself and look at, what is it within me that I can give myself to have that. And so that's been a huge game changer for me. And it's almost like I didn't even realize how much work I needed to do there, to really realize what can come from it. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. It's kind of like Pandora's box. You don't really
Yeah.
realize it once you kind of go on this like personal growth journey. It's like one thing after the next, but the biggest thing is like aligning it with what feels good to you, because then it doesn't feel like a hard, challenging process. And that's the biggest thing, is that we've been conditioned a lot from our societal beliefs, is that in order for us to get where we want to go, things have to be hard. Like we have to really work hard, and we have to try hard, and it's like challenge.
Yeah.
It's like more of like a forcing type
Right.
space. Whereas this really does it elevates your consciousness into a place where it is of that flow state. So things they flow a lot better. And when we start
Yeah.
focusing, like you said, about having the goal, when we start focusing, yes, we set the goal, but what would that look like for me to feel good while accomplishing that goal? And that's the thing too, is when we have mentors or we have other people, what works for them may not work for us. So that's where we have to, if we are entrepreneurs and we want to create something great in this lifetime, we have to open ourselves up to that creativity. Creativity isn't just music and art and all of these things. Like, that's what I love most about business and doing this work with the mind, is that it is such a creative process, because we individually, what you want to create for the way that you're doing things is going to be completely different from the way that I want to do things. And when we can really, like you said, see people in their genius, that we all have these different geniuses, that's where as a collective, everything's going to start kind of flowing a lot better. And it's amazing how you said that you were starting to like be easier and understand other people's behavioral patterns as well, because when we can start seeing that and we ease up on them, and it's just us easing up on ourselves and having more patience with ourselves, but then it reflects back out on being easier on other people and having more patience with other people. And that's when our relationships actually start working as well. So it's like they say, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so by shifting it inside and us changing these things, it will start rippling out in every single area of our life. So thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm so happy that you had such like an incredible experience. And so with all of these kind of new awarenesses and new, basically this whole new perception that you have of yourself in the world, where do you now see that you are headed? How has your trajectory changed?
Yeah. Oh, what a loaded question. No, I think it's really
And you don't even
interesting
need to
to
know
think
where it's
about.
going yet. Just like really
Yeah,
your
and that's the
mindset around it.
thing. That's right. Is like I don't know where I'm going, but I've
Yeah,
learned that that's okay.
exactly. And that's the way it should
Um,
be.
which like I feel like I've been very hard on myself in the past, be like, why am I not there? Like, where is there?
Where?
I don't know. And so it can be really hard on yourself for the unknown, really. But where I'm going is I found that where I was stuck is being able to really pass forward the information that I have onto others and being able to really help guide them and make a difference in their lives. And so when I always thought about my why or my vision, I was like, I want to do this, I want to do this. But it's really opened up to how I can serve other people. And so that was something that I was really looking for before, but it was always within me. It's just kind of pulled out. So where I'm going is to just really impact as many people as possible. And you said, you mentioned the ripple, and this picture above me you can't see, but it's actually a puddle, because I really do want to have this impact of when I talk to Laura, how can that impact somebody else? Or when Laura talks to me, how can that impact somebody else? Maybe she's going to share something with me that I can pass on. And so I just really believe that if you focus on the bigger picture, it might not be the person that you're speaking to, but you can have a huge impact on people. And that's really what I want for my future and where I'm going. So how it happens or, what that looks like, I don't know, but it's kind of exciting to know that you don't have to have all the answers, and that the universe is just going to guide you in whichever direction that you're meant to go. So just keep on going and trust the process, and release those expectations, and everything is just gonna work out perfectly the way it's supposed to. So yeah, just a bigger outlook on life.
Beautiful. And I'm so excited. Like, you're honestly, the ripple has already begun. You're rippling even before, but now it's just like amplifying that ripple. And it's been such an honor being like a part of your process. And Kristen was actually just on Reignite Your Soul podcast sharing some of that wisdom education, which is perfect integration for everything. So if you haven't had a chance and you're interested in learning more about your finances, about money, about debt reduction, about investing, you can go check out the podcast episode on Reignite Your Soul, because Kristen was just on it and it was just released this past Monday. So you can definitely check that out. And yeah, I'm just so very excited to see where life goes. And I love how you mentioned too about that unknown and not knowing. And that is the liberation. And that is what freedom is. A lot of the time we think that freedom is a certain thing, but really freedom is a state of mind and it's a way of being. And being able to have faith and trust in ourselves to navigate the unknown is really what true liberation is.
Yeah.
And that's what most people don't understand. So you literally just like described the whole process of what the spiral is. It's that process of liberation of our fucking soul, so we can come
Yeah.
into trusting ourselves and navigating this world and not living from this place of fear or scarcity. Like this place is abundant with opportunities. This place is a playground. This place has so many opportunities here, and it's like a gift to be on this planet with everything going on. So I'm so excited to just see like all of the opportunities that now come into your life and how that gets to ripple out to the world. So thank you so
Yes.
much for like trusting me to go guide you through this process. And yeah, it's just honestly like such a treasure to be able to witness you and now be in your life and get to watch you bring all of your magic to the world.
Thank you. And I just appreciate for really just opening up this opportunity for me and being there for me and showing me this new way of being, but also just holding a safe space for me to really open up and be myself and be vulnerable. I just really appreciate it. And just like this kind of what you said, I'm so excited to see the changes that you're going to have on the world and the impact that you're going to have, because you have so much to offer. And I can't even express how grateful that I am for everything that you've done. So just thank you.
Thanks so much, Kristen. It's literally just like so special, and it always makes me so sad to be able to like end these calls and these sessions, but I know we're going to be doing the self-clearing stuff in the next 6 weeks, so we've got lots of time, and we get to be there to cheer each other on and encourage each other as we continue to move through this life. So very, very grateful for you. And I guess last question, if there was somebody kind of watching this and they're like kind of on the fence of like, oh my gosh, do I make this investment? Because it is an investment. And a lot of the time in society, we aren't used to actually investing into a non-tangible physical thing, investing into ourselves. Any advice that you would have for people of what that investment meant to you and how much you've actually received from it since going through?
Yeah, I would say the investment is 100% worth it. You're investing in yourself to become the better person. If you're looking at the spiral, it's likely because you feel stuck or you want to become a better version of yourself. And so I would say just bite the bullet, right? The investment of the spiral it's so small compared to what you're going to get out of that. And it's like, you make a small investment now, but it pays in dividends. Like, you're going to see that forever. You're forever a change in what you're doing and where you're going. And you're going to, have tools as well that you can go back to, right? So it's not a class, it's a program, but you get a lot out of it in that kind of way. So I would say 100%, just if you're thinking about it, just bite the bullet, just do it. It's an investment in yourself. And there's no better place to invest than yourself, really. Like we were just talking on the podcast, we can buy things that, don't even really add value to our lives. This is going to add so much value and really I can't even explain, like just totally transform who you are and being a better person and showing up in different ways and really figuring out your purpose. So just go for it. Just do it. Just jump in.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kristen. And last question as well, because you did this through the spiral with Recover and Rise. And for those of you guys who don't know what Recover and Rise is, it's an incredible 10-week a group coaching program, which basically gives you the tangible tools. It has like an over 100-page PDF that goes along with it. And each week you move through it and you will literally, it's like all the spiritual teachings that you will need to understand yourself more, to get yourself unstuck, to be able to really start dreaming bigger for yourself and come more into your purpose. So what was it like moving through the spiral and then moving through Recover and Rise as like a package deal?
Yeah, honestly, I think doing those two things, they just happen to align, but I am so grateful that they did, because like you said, Recover and Rise gives you those tools. I literally have Recover and Rise sheets with me almost everywhere I go. So they have these different tools that you can work through. But what I found was really helpful is that some of the stuff that came up in Recover and Rise, we were able to clear going through the spiral. So they kind of partnered perfectly together in that way, especially because Recover and Rise is almost set up in the same way, where you kind of start at the lower levels and you move up. And so work like doing the spiral in the same way, it really seemed to align, and it kind of gives you like a better understanding. I think I'm a very logical person. So the spiral is a lot of like energy work and more emotional side of things, where Recover and Rise has more of the tangible, logical things. So it, for me, it really fit well because I could kind of mash those two things together to really understand and really propel where I was going, right? So I think doing those two things together, I'm just so glad that they happen to line up so perfectly, because just like the integrations and doing both of them together, just I think I'm so much further along than if maybe I didn't have just the tools from Recover and Rise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
beautiful.
coming on here and just being open to just share your experience with everybody. And anybody has any questions, you guys can feel free to just put them in the comments of this video, and I can answer them either in a video or I can send you a direct message and answer them. But yeah, thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on here and sharing that. And once again, I'm just like, it's been such an honor getting to see you every single week moving through this. And then I'm just so excited to see where everything leads for you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I appreciate it, Laura.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for who was watching this. We love you, and we'll see you later.